gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. Uh, so I'm playing 10 minutes plus 5 seconds. I love it because it's one of those. It's a good time setting. I don't want to get too far into this, but let's go ahead, see what happens in this live session of 10 minutes plus 5 seconds. All right. Good games. Let's try review here. Game history. We'll pull up all 4 games against this opponent. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th most recent one is already up, right? No, okay, make it 4th then. So this one goes here. This one there for us go here. And I had white in the first game. Okay, yep. I'm interested to see. Okay. Really accurate win, Jordan. This is not a bad thing. Another accurate win. Or was this? Yeah, win. This is where I lost. My opponent beat me with the black pieces. And in order to do so, Philippe had to play accurately as well again. My opponent and I, we played all these games accurately. 7, 5, 9, 8, 8, 9. Are these the same games though? KO. Black's 10th move. Black's 10th move. Is it the same game? Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to close this one and open this most recent one in a new tab. What we're doing chronologically, so it goes at the end here. Through these first 3 games, accurate play by my opponent and me both. And I'm really glad to see that. So here we have the highlights and the graph show. All right. Let's see. This is the one I lost, and then this is the most recent one, which is also good. But we had this at bishop to b4 and bishop to b4. Is here as well. So this is again not the right game. Last game. So close this and open up the other one where my opponent had white. Last game, I lost with white. Really awesome game to start out. That'll be fine. Alright, Here I won with black, a game that was less accurate than the others. I'm just looking at this piece, I think 10 moves in, 20 moves in. Crazy. I mean, look at all the minor pieces floating around. No respect for each other's territory. The pawn's in on the action. This knight is pinned. This rook is strong even as he's not attacking a piece. This rook says wake me when it's over. We got kings on the third rank. It's a crazy, crazy game. So it should be. It will normally be less accurate as a result of that. Well, we'll get to that game. This first game, I won with white. Part of this is going to be a trip down memory lane here. And the game is really accurate. I played these games in 10 minutes per side per game, plus 5 seconds per move increment. Queen's Gambit, and we're off and running with the semi-Slav. Knight to c3. This is all book. We've seen this many times before. I'll close up the position a bit with c5, and black must navigate in cramped space or take action soon. He does both with pawn to b6, continuing to shore up a dark squared pawn chain with b4. It's a strong move, and yeah. So we have white to move here. G3 isn't. I really value this move highly. I'm glad that I found it. It's justified for a number of reasons. First of all, bishop to G2 as a fianchetto move is strong. There's no white pawns on white squares. That's big. And second of all, with the pawn at G3, white can throw in the move bishop to F4, striking at black's queen, has to move, and then now this bishop has a pretty darn nice diagonal, some dynamic possibilities. D6 in certain circumstances to trade bishops and leave black with a pawn lingering on D6. There's also, bishop E5 might be bait or almost bait for knight takes E5, pawn takes E5, and then this knight, black's knight on F6 has to scoot somewhere, perhaps uncomfortably so. So, pawn to G3 is just a good move. Bishop to A6. And I'm not sure. Yeah, the computer doesn't like it, but I think the computer wants E5. Let's take a look. We have the analysis window. Not E5, but bishop G2. Oh, this was the wrong. Here, E5 for black. Try to open the position. Torch wants to open the position. And black has enough firepower on E5 that exchanges make C5 a target, and in general, black is cramped. Okay, so black is quite cramped in this position. E5 is a freeing move. So bishop A6 is only a mistake because E5 frees black from a cramped position much more so. Other than that, it's a good move. With these moves, moves on the flank like bishop A6, and they often come in a much more open board in a way so as to prevent white, in this case, from castling kingside. They're useful. If you can, I advise playing a move like bishop A6 after playing A5. Then your rook's got your back, your pawn's more productive and helpful in controlling some space and taking away the B4 square. that if you can get pawn to a5 in first and then bishop to a6, that's often better, mostly for the protection of your own bishop on a6 from the rook. All right, so back to my view. My opponent and I, we had a bit of this dance, bishop and queen through the c3 knight, and my opponent sometimes wants to move away from the discovered attack. Here black resigns in the face of queen takes a8 check, and probably a strong follow-up. I mean, what is king to e8 gonna help? We could throw this check in, except our knight is en prise, so maybe tend to that first. Yeah, after queen takes a8 check, the king moves, only sensible move available, and then throwing away a knight or a queen or something. The king moves, and then white will have time to react to the threat against the knight at c3, for instance, bishop to d2. And white's just up a ton of material. So that was the first game. Here's the second game. This game was not accurate. I might not review this game depending on exactly what happens, what kind of positions we reach, how much inaccuracy. Okay, that's too much. This game I did win, so I'll go through it super fast. But like I said, it was a very complicated position tactically, pieces all over the place in weird spots, and that can throw off even an experienced chess player. I won finally with a move that showed I was going to win another pawn or another pawn to the other direction. I was already ahead a ton of material at that point. This is a game my opponent won. You see some themes similar to the first game, with the advanced pawn after a queen's gambit declined into the semi-Slav and so on. Actually, no, declined? I think we went semi-Slav. And the knight takes f3 is the right move. It's a daring one. And having been dared, black continues to play accurately. I want to, with the pawn down, I want to double black's pawns here in the in black's effort to recuperate from bishop takes f6, and then the queen captures, and we're equal on pawns. I'm threatening a rook, and I'm cutting off black's queenside castle. There's only one problem. It's black's turn to move. And bishop e7, while considered a mistake here, does indeed answer the threat I was intending. Now, it's a little bit better for white after the miss, but I'm not seeing that better quite myself. And in fact, black has moves like pawn to d4 coming, and with the knight pinned and attacked, the queen can capture on d4, and the bishop moves to b4, and this pin is super strong. Somehow here, white is not doing all that well, while also a full pawn of material down. Still, you play through these types of positions as white, because there's a lot of life in this game. Look, there's lively pieces bouncing around on both sides. You can make up some of the material difference. You can make up some more of the material difference. There's a lot of chess left in this particular game, even if black will win with computer best play. So kingside castles. f4 is not horrible. Knight a4. At the time, I thought this was going to help settle things in white's favor. Pick up a pawn on d4 and just get rolling with some kind of kingside attack. Maybe a pawn move to f4 to help move around some defenders and claim some portion of the g6 square. Didn't work out that way. My opponent found best move. Queen d8. Pawn to f5. A bit of a threat, but here with white to move. I don't know. There's a lot to be considered. First of all, the knight's kind of stuck. If I had noticed that, I might have. The better move here might be just simply b3. Now, whatever comes to attack this knight thereafter, knight to b2 will be safe in almost any circumstance. I do end up losing this knight if I recall correctly. So this pawn storm that I begin with and a battery that's reversed but also pointing in the wrong direction is not going to help start your Teddy Ruxpin. So with rook to e8, queen c7, I hadn't realized how dire how grim this knight on the rim had been and was still. We'll move him back to b2, keep him real, as in important to this game. Hey, who knows? Maybe a smothered mate to prove not to be slain and instead to retain the victory for what's my name? More gravity. So we had queen c7. The trade of queens is still good for black, and now the knight, like I said, is I lose the knight for a pawn and not with a second pawn to be added. So black has this really intense advanced pawn chain. I mean, at this stage of the game with this many pieces and pawns on the board, how often with this stage of the game, it's rather early for pawn chain 3 long to be this deep in white's territory. It doesn't mean I can't stop it, but just as an oddity, this is already strong. Black is doing very well here. As you can see, 3 points of material to the better. That's already good. And I agree with the evaluation bar about 3 points of material beyond that due to positional factors. That's crazy good. As sometimes when a player can accumulate both material and positional advantages like that, just indicates strength in the player in general. So very impressive. My opponent went on to win this game a few moves. How about this move? Bishop to e1. Just totally oddly placed, but protected. I might have done well to move my light squared bishop and now have 2 rooks aiming at the bishop at e1. I still would have lost the light squared bishop to my opponent's light squared bishop. Just really interesting, creative, fun moves by my opponent. I really appreciate that. And now with d2, closing down the sector. d2 is the supreme neck protector. And so I had some ideas of my own. Bishop to e5, where my bishop's protected and blocking off another portion of the sector. This is a long-term problem for white to solve. I went for some semblance of counter activity or counterattack with a4. We could get this pawn rolling. Maybe there's something similar even on black's queen side with a7 and b8. Didn't happen. My opponent played knight g4. Even picking up a full knight wasn't going to deter him from winning this particular game. This is a really great game, Felipe. I don't know if you're listening, but this is not your normal win. I mean, this is not one's normal win. I eventually decided to dump the rook for the bishop and pawn, rather than the d pawn promoting in some way where the queen might stay in the game durably. So, queen to or d takes e1 check, but not for long because rook takes e1, and white's fighting an uphill battle. Drop a bishop on f3, and it's not really all that big a deal. Resign here. White's position is hopeless. But so I played on about the right time to resign, I'd say, overall. I thought my opponent played some really awesome moves in this game. Hats off to you. Now, this is the last of the 4 games. We'll go through this game. We'll review this game as well. Queen's Gambit and the Semi-Slav with knight c3, knight f6, and knight f3. Then bishop g4 is a little bit over ambitious, but practically speaking, removing the knight at f3 with doubling white's pawns is not bad at all. So I did so. Here come the double pawns. We've got sort of a, sometimes this is good for the individual game of chess. One side has a bad pawn structure, and the other side might be a little bit cramped or behind in development or something. It's a dynamic balance, and that helps. That's a good thing. In general, I don't know if it's a good thing, but it makes for more action-packed games. That's for sure. Pawn to e5, and knight takes g3. We now have a pin on. This pin is very strong. Double up on the pin. And then here was mostly pushing a3 didn't help due to the pin on a3. After a takes b4, queen takes a1 check, and black has himself a bit of a material advantage to work with. Yeah. These moves in here, I'm kind of letting review go through them. Some of these are actually quite difficult moves. Bishop g2. Here with white to move. There are a lot of near. There are a lot of ways white can almost trap black's queen without losing his own. There are a lot of almost great moves for white. It's a little bit frustrating to play in a position like that. And my opponent took some time to ponder, and I came to the same result that he did, and that's bishop g2 is the most spirited try. The black's queen just gets out of the way of all kinds of attacks, and white owning squares and discovered attacks and everything with queen to a6. But it's also tempting along the way. Let's look at bishop g2. It's tempting even for white. Queen takes h1, d takes c3. and it's like we've gotten 8 points for 9. Just not quite like that because probably b takes c3 means it's 7 points for 9, and I'll keep the last 2 points, thank you very much, while also keeping my queen on the board, and that your knight is being attacked, so there's even a little bit of a tempo of initiative involved. Black has better initiative. All that together said, not the day to investigate a rook and a knight for a queen and a pawn. It was close. I definitely thought about it. So queen to a6, b5, rook b8. Pin is working well here for black. And knight takes d5. There were better moves. Maybe knight e2 in some situations. It's a shield along. It's a shield against potential checks along the second rank. Knight takes d5. E takes d5. Queen moves. It's a little strange, George. Well, it's a good move. I'm not exactly sure that's the one I wanted to play. I played queen takes b5. Let's journey on into practice. Just want to demonstrate that it's much better here for black to play pawn takes d5. We swap queens in that sort of I'll take yours, you take mine kind of way, and when the rook moves, rook captures another pawn, so that makes things crazy, or that makes things even more so. But there's even a check here on the first rank, which black can then use to parlay. You guessed it, another pawn on a6, except the bishop's active by that point. Knight c5. Okay. So a little bit of a foray into the unknown there, and some poeticism at the end, I suppose. Um, so yeah, whatever the heck I was saying at the beginning of that turns out to be true. That I should not have captured on a5 here. So I should have captured the queen on d5 in keeping with the principle to reduce the amount of material on the board when you have the material lead. That being said, queen takes b5 is not damaging, and queen takes b2 check achieves the end of trading material also. And so the evaluating engine and I agreed that uh, queen takes b5 was indeed a good move. Not the best move, but a good move. The queen takes d4, swapping queens on b2. Rook takes b2 check. The king moves to f1. Now, rook to b1 is very strong. We're gonna have the king move off the first rank and trade rooks on h1. Knight takes e5, and that's all she wrote, my friends, my folks, my friends. And I'm going to finish this position against computer, and I don't have anything planned after that. Probably sign off for the day, for the night. Whose turn is it? It's okay. It's Black's turn. F5 is an inaccuracy. Let's try. Let's see that off for one. I still cut off the diagonal here, and yeah, there's no good moves. He moves away, keeps his bishop, but you get rid of more material by capturing. All right, the computer had a move us. We'll keep this knight here as a semi uh, stable object. All right. Alright, this is also accurate game. So, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm More Gravity. Have a great night.